Good morning. I'm looking forward when we can actually see each other face to face, but at the moment at least we can use the medium of the internet and all its wonders. This Sunday we have 3 readings. One from Exodus 14, when God enables Moses to lead the Hebrew people out of captivity from Egypt. And then just 3 verses out of Peter's fantastic speech to the public after Pentecost. That's Acts 2:22-24. And finally, we hear how the resurrected Jesus twice appeared to his disciples while they were in a locked room. That's in John 20, verse 19 to the end of the chapter. I'm only going to take a very quick peek at the Exodus story. It's wonderful in its own right, but we don't have time now to go into it properly. What I do want to highlight, though, is the fact that God's prophetic word, his promises, do happen. They are fulfilled. Now, approximately 400 years before the escape of the Hebrews from Egypt, God met with Abraham and said in Genesis 15, verse 13, I solemnly promise that your descendants will live as foreigners in a land that doesn't belong to them. That's Egypt. They will be forced into slavery and abused for 400 years. But I will terribly punish the nation that enslaves them, and they will leave with many possessions. Wow, goosebumps or what? It all happened. The problem is that God operates according to his own will and ideas, not our timetable. And sometimes it means we have to wait longer than we wish for an answer, and sometimes things don't happen the way we expect or like. Moving to the New Testament, Jesus' birth, life, and death and resurrection had all been prophesied many times in the Old Testament, and then in the New Testament were proven true. The Jews thought they were going to get a Messiah who would save them from the occupying army, the Romans, and restore them to the power they had in David and Solomon's time. Not someone who was going to save them from the power of sin and death. They wanted saving from the oppressors that they could see, weigh and measure. Jesus offered salvation from sin and death and life everlasting. Oh Lord, give us the wisdom and humility to keep checking our ideas against your ideas. Keep us close to you in prayer, fellowship, and reading of your word. So let's move sharpish to Acts. And here is Peter. Our Peter, who ran away and denied Jesus, now full of the Spirit and laying into the residents and visitors to Jerusalem. God publicly endorsed Jesus the Nazarene, he says, by doing powerful miracles, wonders, and signs through him, as you well know. But God knew what would happen, and his prearranged plan was carried out when Jesus was betrayed. With the help of lawless Gentiles, you nailed him to a cross and killed him. But God released him from the horrors of death and raised him back to life, for death could not keep him in its grip. There's a lot in these few verses. Peter is talking about Jesus, who everybody then knew had been publicly executed and suffered the death of a criminal. Peter says, 1. God endorsed Jesus' claim that he was the Messiah. 2. Jesus' death was prearranged by God, and you, that is, Peter's listeners, killed him. And finally, death could not keep hold of Jesus. God raised him back to life. Unpick them a little bit. So 1, God publicly endorsed Jesus. Now, to endorse means to back, to approve, to state someone or something can be trusted. So God was making it absolutely clear that Jesus' claim to be the Messiah was true. God worked through and with Jesus as he fed the thousands, healed the sick, freed people from evil spirits, even caused the wind and waves to obey him. These powerful miracles, wonders and signs that marked his ministry were proof that Jesus was and is the Messiah, promised by God and sent by God in God's own time. Now Peter challenges his hearers. This Jesus did powerful miracles, wonders and signs, as you well know. They were around at the time. Peter's listeners were witnesses to this. They would have heard of, maybe had even seen Jesus at work during his time of ministry. Peter is also setting out a challenge to the authorities who, rather than seeing healings and other miracles as good, actually claimed he, Jesus, is possessed by Beelzebub, by the prince of demons. He's driving away demons. Why did they do this? Why call something good evil? I think it's because otherwise they would have had to accept Jesus really was who he claimed to be, the Messiah, and this did not fit with what they were hoping to happen. So they chose instead to completely deny what was in front of their eyes. Peter is clear. Jesus was enabled and empowered through God. He worked through and with God the Father through the whole time of his miraculous time on earth. Number 2. Jesus was delivered to the authorities and crucified by the determined counsel and foreknowledge of God. God knew when, how, and why Jesus would die the way he did. He planned this from before the beginning of time. The Old Testament God of fire and brimstone still loves us and wanted to make a way for us, for all people, to come back to him. Jesus was and is that way. Jesus knew this. Why else did he say, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me? Peter knew that Jesus' death was in the plan of God, but he also made it quite clear that those who'd rejected Jesus and called for his execution were as responsible for their actions as the lawless Gentiles. He says, with the help of lawless Gentiles, you nailed him to a cross and killed him. In other words, he's saying, take responsibility. Thirdly and finally and gloriously, God released Jesus from the horrors of death and raised him back to life, for death could not keep him in its grip. The word here actually has the power of birth. It's like a mother trying not to let her baby be given birth. Jesus was birthed through death. He came back to life. Nothing could be done to stop it happening. So Jesus, the chosen Messiah, was finally proven by his resurrection to be that Messiah. And that gives us the choice of saying, I'm really sorry. I know I've done wrong. I accept your forgiveness freely, and I accept the new life you give me. Or we walk away. Rather like the authorities, who couldn't bear to see their hopes destroyed. They wanted what they wanted, not what Jesus was offering. So that's Peter's speech. Jesus, pre-planned, foreordained, the Messiah coming back to life. Now, if we scroll back a little bit, 5-6 weeks, to just after Jesus' death, and go to the reading in John, we find the disciples in a locked room for fear of what the Jews might do to them. They, including Peter, really were broken men and women. They were scared. Their hopes and dreams had been smashed. And then some of their own people started to come back talking about a resurrected Jesus. How would you have felt in that place? Would it have been, wow, but what's the difference? How's that going to help? We're still sitting in this room. The Jews still want to kill us. Where do we go? What do we do? And suddenly, there in the midst of them, in a locked room, stood Jesus. And he didn't yell at them for running away. He didn't push them on, saying, come on, pull yourself together. I'm here, get on with it. No, he said, Shalom. Now, Shalom is the equivalent of Salam, peace be with you. It was the everyday greeting of anybody who met someone they'd not seen for a while. It was the greeting of the marketplace. Shalom, peace. Real peace is what it's offering. Peace in the deepest, deepest part. It was a wish. But here we really did have Shalom being offered. Jesus was being gracious. He didn't yell at his disciples. He didn't get cross. He saw the state they were in and he loved them. And he said, peace. Peace be with you. I guess the disciples were probably goggle-eyed and slack-jawed at seeing Jesus, seesawing between ecstasy and amazement and downright fear. And I guess, I don't know, that Jesus, now is the end of his suffering, now he's going back to the Father, now he has achieved everything he should have done and did, was full of joy and glory. But he loved his little group of disciples, his little flock, so much that he stopped and said, Shalom, peace be with you. And that's what he says to us when we're in the middle of fears about the coronavirus, when we're in the middle of what's going to happen to our country, when we're in the middle of what's going to happen to our loved ones, when we are grieving, when we're angry. Jesus says, Shalom, peace. Deep peace, real peace, because Jesus can really offer peace. He has conquered death and sin. He offers new life. So we take that life, and what that means is that every time we get pulled out of right connection with Jesus, when life gets in the way, we turn around and we go, Jesus, please help. Jesus, give us your peace. Jesus, I ask for all of us hearing this week, your peace in our lives. Amen.